All right, let's start off by saying Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Allegiance with the Beast. Salaki for that. I left my phone upstairs, so I wanted to get it to make sure we were live. Um, I won't have a way to view the comments unless I keep clicking back and forth here. You know, but nevertheless, I was listening to the Elder Pastor's video um, a little while ago. Let's see. The name of it is My Favorite Subject and Other Topics. And pretty much, he mentioned something where he typed something dealing with the MOTB online. And it said pretty much that the MOTB, some say it's biometric. It said, but it's really an allegiance to the beast system. So it got the wheels turning. And I wanted to touch on that because it is an allegiance to the beast system, but it's something that's going to be physically inserted into a person. So what I want to start off with, I just typed it in Google, allegiance with the beast meaning, just to see what it said. And down here it says, what is the mark of the beast allegiance? It says, just as the seal of the Most High symbolizes divine ownership and protection, the mark of the beast signifies allegiance to Satan and his earthly representative. It says the Antichrist, but there's many anti-messiahs. We've gone over that time and time again. 1 John 2:18, there are many antichrists with an S at the end. It says it is important to note that this mark is not a neutral symbol. It represents a deliberate choice to oppose the Most High and align with evil. And pretty much that's what it is. When you are faced with this, this MOTB or this device, and you have to take it in order to be able to continue to do business, you have to make a conscious decision to pretty much, make an allegiance with the beast. And at that point, you become a servant to the beast. You become a slave to the beast. The beast becomes your God. You forsake the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, for the beast, because you're by that action, you're pretty much saying that you don't believe that the Lord can provide for you, and that you're going to put your whole trust in this beast system and take his mark, which is the charagma. So down here it says, what is meant by the beast in the Bible? In the Bible, primarily in the book of Revelation, the beast represents a powerful, tyrannical, worldwide political and religious entity or empire that opposes the Most High and opposes his followers. And that's exactly what it is. But it's not just global. It's also a particular nation of people that would be heading or spearheading this tyrannical, powerful, political religious entity. And that would be the Edomites, which the world today knows as so-called white people. And as we always said, not just because you are a so-called white person does it mean that you're an Edomite. You have Israelites that are scattered around the world that have mingled their seed with other nations, like the scriptures say, the waters of Judah shall be in the waters of many, or something like that. I can't think of the actual quote, but it's in the book of, I believe that's Numbers, if I'm not mistaken. So you will have Israelites all over the planet looking like all nations. This is why in the book of Revelation, some of the people that were saved, the Apostle John didn't recognize them because obviously they didn't look like the regular Israelites, or he would have said those are Jakes. They were Israelites that were coming from all different walks of life and all over the planet. And Israel has been mingled among the nations because the seed can never be tainted. The seed can never, be, no matter what the baby looks like, that seed always goes back to what the father is. And whatever the father is, that's what the baby is, no matter what the baby looks like. The baby could come out with 4 different colors. It could be purple, blue, green, and orange. If his father's an Israelite, he's an Israelite. I mean, I'm going to the extreme with it, but, you get the idea. It says it's seen as a continuation of the evil empires described in Daniel, and it is. Even, like AI overview is starting to, you know, starting to really tap in more into the breakdowns of the true breakdowns of the scriptures because of the Israelites, the former one Westers. There's a lot of information, a lot of videos, a lot of, different websites and stuff that goes into the beast system, the MOTB, mainly Great Millstone, because, some of them other groups don't really push, even the ones that know that the MOTB is the micro CHIP, even they don't even push it, So a lot of this information that this AI overview is getting, or the chat, they're getting from the Hebrew Israelites of Great Millstone, empowered by Satan, the dragon, to mislead and control the world, and is often associated with the anti-Messiah, which is many, there's many anti-Messiahs, and the man of lawlessness. The man of lawlessness is Esau, and it's not just one man; it's a nation of people. That's what the Lord said, that Esau, or the Edomites, are the people upon whom he had indignation forever. So what I want to do is dealing with this word allegiance. I typed in just chat allegiance definition. Allegiance noun means loyalty or commitment to a person, group, cause, or country. Examples: a soldier swears allegiance to their country. His allegiance to the team never wavered, even during tough seasons. The politician shifted her allegiance to a different party. So synonyms are loyalty, devotion, fidelity, commitment, obedience in some contexts. So pretty much it's an allegiance, it's a conscious decision to, partake, of somebody else's, or either a political system or a system in general, in their ways. So you have to make a conscious, deliberate, effort, or commitment to that particular, group. In this case, dealing with the MOTB and the MOTB system, or the beast system. And when we go to scriptures like the book of Revelation, 13th chapter, which we go to, I think this is one of the main chapters. I mean, this chapter probably has been broken down more than any other chapter in the scriptures. And you could actually start at the 11th verse. Matter of fact, let's start at the 11th verse, but I'm going to jump to the main point. 11th verse, because remember, we read in the what was it, the AI overview, was it continuation? Yeah, in the AI overview down here, it says it's seen as a continuation of the evil empires described in Daniel, right? And the evil empire, really one evil empire, is the Roman Empire. And the American government set themselves up as the ancient Roman Empire. That's why you have a Senate House. That's why you have a president, so on and so forth, these different senators, politicians, but also it took on customs and religious rites and, pagan worships of the other nations. But the main one we're dealing with is the Roman Empire, because it specifically says that there would be a little horn that would come up, from that fourth beast. All right. So it goes on to say, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. So this other beast coming up out of the earth is America, which is the 8th head. So the beast had 7 heads, but then another, at the end time, the 8th head would grow, and that happened when America, came into power. They started off as a little nub, and eventually you see it's a great horn having a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and they're going hard. This devil Trump, they're pushing him to the limit. He's earning his keep, boy. He's being a good boy to the international bankers. It says, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. That's your bipartisan system, which is really a one-party system. And this proves it right here. And he spake as a dragon, dealing with the legislation that they're passing to pretty much cement, the plans of the illuminated ones, which is spearheaded by Amalek, and they're the ones, as you know, like from Nick Rockefeller and the interview that he had with Aaron Russo, to where Aaron Russo asked him, what's the end goal of everything? And he said, to have everyone micro C-hipped, and that is the ultimate goal. This is why all of these calamities, all of these different things are happening worldwide. This is why, the economies of the world are collapsing. This is why the US dollar has been instrumental in you know, breaking down the economies of the world to where it's getting so bad that these nations have to resort to try to use other currencies in order to save, their countries, and you know they use the dollar as the catapult into this new world currency, which would be the micro CHIP. That's why everything's going digital. And it's not a coincidence that all nations are going digital. Every last one of them, including Iran. Sorry to hate you, sorry to burst your bubble, Chiefy. But Iran is doing what America's doing. They're going digital. They're going digital, my friend. They're going digital, my fellow tribesmen. You know, Hopefully the spirit open up your mind so you can see it. It says, "And he, meaning this beast that this other beast that came up, exercised all of the power of the first beast before him." How? By the way that they structured their society. And we're not talking about just everyday life of people and all that, even though that's a part of it. But it's really, how they structured their government. And they actually, when the so-called founding forefathers established America, they established it upon the Roman principles of government, of finance and so on and so forth. There's a lot of intricacies, but that's just a broad stroke, so you can get a somewhat of an idea, and that would be the image of the beast. It says, and he causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, which is the Roman Empire, whose deadly wound was healed. When was their deadly wound healed? Through the Renaissance. This is when the beast, the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, got loosed from their prison sentence. It was 1,000-year prison sentence, which extended more than that, but slowly but surely, from the 1300s into the 1400s into the 1500s, they started to gain traction on the earth, and to what you have today, America, established upon the principles of ancient Rome. All right. So what I want to do is, it speaks about the image, which you read, or we spoke about the image being the Roman system, the Roman way, But what I want to do is there's a mark here that people will have to receive in order to be able to function financially in this new system. But what I want to do is I want to tap into the book of Revelation 13 and 18 and go into the number of the beast, because there's an important point in here to make. And this mark, right, this device or this thing, this number is going to be the cement in the allegiance between the individuals of the world and the beast system. All right. So it says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man," with the Edomites, and his number is 636, which when you go to other translations, you're going to see the numbers 666, which are the three Greek characters, as you see here, Chi, Psi, Stigma. Now, when you go here to Chi, Psi, Stigma, right, Chi being 600, Psi being 60, and stigma being 6, and we're going to deal with the stigma part. All right, as you can see there, Chi, Psi, Stigma, or Chi, Psi, Stigma. Okay, it doesn't break it down what it means. It doesn't really go into detail of what the word stigma means. But a stigma could be something that is put upon someone as a label, or it could be something that can be inserted into someone. All right. In the case of this, based off of the charagma in the few verses above, a couple of verses above, it's going to be something that's going to be inserted physically into people. Because when you go through the different root words of charagma, one of them is stizo, which, or should I say, it goes into the word charax, which is a stizo, which means to cut or to prick or to cut into. All right. So how do we find out what this means? Because it says 666, the meaning of which is the basis of much vain speculation. Yeah, because people don't know why, because they're not prophets. Now you have a lot of Edomites out there, Bible thumpers, which some of them are jakes that have tapped into the true understanding of the mystery of the MOTB, which is the micro C hip, and they will fight tooth and nail against it, right? But in order to really understand what this word or this Greek letter stigma means, we have to go to the book of Galatians. All right. Now, Galatians chapter 6 is the Apostle Paul speaking about the label or stigma upon him of Yahushai. But the label that's upon him, the stigma, was actually something that was pricked into our Lord Yahushai. When Thomas, which so-called scholars call doubting Thomas, he said he won't believe that it's the Lord unless he does these couple of things. Just bear with me. This is the book of St. John chapter 20 and 24. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Yahushua came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And when you go to this word print, these were actual incisions that were made, some say with railroad spikes, which is a lot bigger than just a regular nail, So we look at this word print, right? Prints. Okay, you got the word nail, you got the word print. The word is tupos, right? Or typos or type. The mark of a stroke or blow, print. A figure formed by a blow or impression of a figure or image of the image of the gods. Teachings, example, ethical sense, the doctrinal sense. Okay, so it's something that is cut into. Let's see, tupo. Right. Tupo, which is the root word of that print, is the word to strike, beat, smite, with a staff, a whip, the fist, the hand of mourners, to smite, afflict punitive evil, to wound, disquiet one's conscience. So it was an actual mark. Because if you don't believe that the Lord was actually wounded, and he actually got, an actual, the actual nails put through his hands, his feet, and his side pierced, then you don't believe in the Messiah. You don't believe in Yahushua. So these were actual marks. All right. Now the Apostle Paul is using that as a, label upon himself, but the word that he uses is very interesting because it goes hand in hand with the word in Revelation 13 for 666. So let's go back to this, Galatians 6 and 16, and 6 and 17. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushua, which is a stigma. And this is why wherever he went, he was being persecuted because the spirit of Yahushua rested upon him. This is why the Apostle Peter said, if you suffer for Yahushua, then be joyful because, you have a reward coming. I'm just merely paraphrasing the book of Peter, right? And when we go to this word here, right, for marks, you have the word what? Stigma, which is the same word or the same number that is written here in the last letter of the 666. See, Chi Psi stigma. Here it doesn't really go in depth of what it means. Here it does. So stigma, when you click on it, right, it says stigma, right, which goes back to from a primary stizo, to stick, an example, prick, meaning to cut into. Now here, when you go down to the outline of biblical usage, it says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. So this was something that was pricked into the Lord Yahushua, the actual prints that he had. So that was actual stigma, actual cutting And the MOTB is going to be something that's going to be inserted into the people. Most people will get it in their hand or whatever part of their body they're going to put it in. But it says the right hand. It could be the right hand. It could be the left hand. If somebody wants to put it on their forearm, whatever, it's going to be in them, somewhere in their body, which is the most invasive way. Then you're going to have those that get it in their head, the metapon, which even the metapon, they cut a small hole in the head to insert that device. You see? So either way you slice it is the same thing, whether it's, in the hand or whether it's in the head. All right? So it says, a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. So this was what? This was a total allegiance. Once you did that, you were totally aligned with that particular commander, with that particular military, with that particular country. And this is pretty much what Esau is doing, because he understands the concept of a perpetual slave being branded. Slaves were branded, cattle were branded, with a branding iron. But in this case, they want to put something inside of people. And there's been talk about this all over the place. They talk about it in circles that hammer out policies for the economies of the world, like the WEF, World Economic Forum. So why are they talking about inserting devices and making things digital into people in the future, making people a part of this system, making phones obsolete by 2030, which we believe is going to happen way before that, or before that, should I say, why would they be talking about these things? Because this is the plan of the future. This is why you had movies like what was that? Total Recall, the one with Colin Farrell. I forgot what year that came out. And pretty much in that movie, they showed that he had an actual phone in his hand. You had this one woman that had a phone, in her hand, a Jake-looking chick. She had a Jake mother and what appeared to be an Edomite father, and she actually had that phone. She was talking to her mother through her hand. So this is what they plan on doing for the future. IOB, Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things, so on and so forth. So this is the plans of the future. Why? Because it fits biblical prophecy. But yet you still have these individuals that are Israelites that should know better, that have the mind to study, that have the mind to research, that are speaking against it. So the only conclusion to that is that they sold out. And now the two major groups, the IUIC and the ISUPK, that were speaking against it are now saying, well, I'm not dismissing that the micro CHIP is a part of it. That's what Captain Kataza said. I'm just merely paraphrasing what he said. Bishop Nate said they might throw a micro CHIP in there. He went into a whole, lesson on the digital system that they're bringing online. And Deacon Malachi goes, in on this digital system. Why? Because they're trying to cover their ass. When they do make it mandatory, they could say, well, we've always been teaching about it. If you listen to us, moron, we've always been teaching about it. No, you haven't. You've been speaking against it for so long, but now that the receipts are overwhelming, you want to speak about it. You want to talk about it because you don't want to look foolish like you have looked every other time when you came up against, what Elder Apostle Tahar said in the scriptures, in the spirit, dealing with Cornelius being an Israelite and other topics, other things that came up that you didn't see till like 10, 15 years later. All right. So it says, and there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods, because it's what? It's an allegiance to the beast system. Now, in the book of 3rd Maccabees, right, this is Antiochus Epiphanes, right? And this is what he ordered these people, these Israelites to do. And pretty much anyone that was, because he actually made a decree. He actually made a law to where everyone had to leave the gods of their nations and give allegiance to him. This is our First Maccabees 1 and 41. So remember, it starts with a law. It starts with legislation. The worshiping of the idol in during the time of the Babylonian Empire started with what? With a decree. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was Darius, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was Darius with Daniel and the lions den. They wanted, when the music played, they wanted them to bow down to this statue. For 30 days you couldn't pray to any other god but the god of the Medieval Persians. And Daniel wasn't having it. So this is showing an allegiance. So it all starts off with a letter. It starts off with a bill, which the bill turns into a law. That law, once it's in the books, is reinforced or enforced by the police, of that particular country. In this case, dealing with America. So it says, this is First Maccabee 141. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. This is your new world order. It's not something new. It's not a new world order. It's an old world order. They've been trying to get this off the ground, going all the way back to the Tower of Babel. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. See? And then it says, for the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get Jake in the world to take this device so that they can worship the strange laws of the land. They could worship the beast system. And that's how they know who is totally in line with it and who's against it. Who's in total allegiance and is not a threat, and who are the ones that are the real threat. All right, so going to Third Maccabees, right? This is Third Maccabees, I believe this is chapter 3. I'm sorry, chapter 2, and verse let's see. I'll start here at 27. He proposed to inflict public disgrace on Israelite community, and he set up a stone on the tower in the courtyard with this inscription: none of those who do not sacrifice shall enter their sanctuaries, and all Jews shall be subjected to a registration involving poll tax and to the status of slaves. This is what they're trying to do. They want to make the world slaves. But not just slaves, perpetual slaves, because they understand the concept of the law in the Old Testament, to where if you had a servant that loved his master so much that he didn't want to leave, he would have to, bore his ear with an awl, and that would show perpetual or forever slavery and obedience to that master. And this is what Esau is pushing with this MOTB, the micro C hip. Those who object to this are to be taken by force and put to death. And this is going to happen again. In this time. It says those who are registered are also to be branded on their bodies by fire with the ivy leaf, symbol of Dionysus, and they shall also be reduced to their former limited status. See? Because once you're on this, in this system, you have a limited status. Why? Because you are a slave. You're a branded slave. You do what the master commands, or guess what? He cuts you out of the equation. He shuts off your micro C hip, like Aaron Russo was saying that Nick Rockefeller told him. So if they don't comply, we just shut off their micro C hip. And this is why they're pushing that. So this is going to be the ultimate allegiance to the beast, this MOTB, which is the micro C hip. It says, in order that he might not appear to be an enemy of all. And this is going to be the ultimate test, and it's going to be the ultimate litmus test, right, for Esau to find out who's with him and who's against him. and those that are against him will be considered enemy of the state or the enemy of the beast system. That's a title right there for a lesson. Enemy of the beast system. It says he inscribed below let me see. He inscribed below, but if any of them prefer to join those who have been initiated into the mysteries, they shall have equal citizenship with the Alexandrians. And this is pretty much, an inclusion into this system back then, which was the Hellenization system. But today, it would be the beast system, right? Spearheaded by America. Now, some, however, with an obvious abhorrence of the price to be exacted for maintaining the religion of their city, readily gave themselves up, since they expected to enhance their reputation by their future association with the king, right? So you had sellouts, you had Sambos. But the Lord said that in this time, those that actually make a league with these devils, make an allegiance with these devils, they're going to be had in derision and in reproach. And eventually they're going to be destroyed here in America by nuclear fire and by the lasers from Yahweh in chariots. So if you're going to have those that's going to make an allegiance with them just to make their life easier, because their shit is hard, but that's going to turn to their destruction, to their demise. So here it says in 2 Maccabees 16 and 69, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot. Because these devils don't give a damn about Jake. All they care about is you making that allegiance. Once you make that allegiance, you're pretty much expendable. Look at the scouts. The different scouts, the different Sambos, among Jake that sold out other Jakes. And what happened? Did they get out of slavery? No, they were still in slavery. They were still in captivity. So going back here, verse 32, 2 Maccabees, 3 Maccabees 2 and 32. But the majority acted firmly with a courageous spirit and did not abandon their religion. That's why Yahweh said, because you have kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. And by paying money in exchange for life, they confidently attempted to save themselves from the registration. They remained resolutely hopeful of obtaining help, and they abhorred those who separated themselves for them, considering them to be enemies of the Israelite nation and depriving them of companionship and mutual help. Right, and this is why when you go to the New Testament, this dealing with the Hellenization period, when you go to the New Testament in the book of Acts, the 6th chapter, the Israelites that were born in Israel that spoke the Hebrew language had a disdain for the Israelites that spoke the Greek language. And these are the ones that kept the law, statutes, and commandments. They just spoke the Greek language. Acts 6 and 1. In those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians, which are the Hellenistes, which are Greek-speaking Jews, against the Hebrews. So they had a problem with them. Why? Because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. And why were they neglected? Because they still had a disdain. The Israelites in Jerusalem, in Israel, still had a disdain, for the Israelites that were speaking Greek, that were, aligned with the Greek Empire. The word for neglected is parathe oreho, to examine things placed beside each other, to compare, to overlook, neglect. So they were overlooked. So it's like, all right, everybody else come up, you agree, okay, step to the side, we'll get to you when we get to you. If there's anything left over, we'll give you some. If not, let the Jews first, let the ones that were born in the land, the ones that that didn't sell out, let them eat first. It says here to overlook or disregard, neglect. Okay, so the allegiance with the beast system, is the ultimate allegiance is that micro C hip. Once you take that, you're going to be fully tapped in with the beast, but you're going to fully be in the bad graces of the Most High. And once again, what it says here, what is meant by the beast in the Bible, AI overview in the Bible, primarily in the book of Revelation, the beast represents a powerful, tyrannical, worldwide political and religious entity or empire that opposes the Most High and oppresses its followers. Right? That's America. Well, that's EU, America, the EU, NATO, the Roman Catholic Church, and the city-state of London. This is that powerful empire, tyrannical, worldwide political, religious empire. That's gonna be put that is not gonna be that's pushing this beast system on the world. Through the digital currency. That's why you had a big golden statue of Trump. I believe that was in front of the White House, was it? If I'm not mistaken, or Capitol, or one of those, and he had a big ass Bitcoin in his hand. So that's how you show your allegiance to the beast. And here we read allegiance means loyalty or commitment to a person, group, cause, or country. In this case, system, the beast system. By taking that micro C here, which is the MOTB, you become in allegiance with the beast, but you become an enemy to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and you will be destroyed. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.